abstention.
Righto. 12, property buyout funding. Okay, I welcome Michael to the stage. We discussed this last week at the Transport Infrastructure Committee, and I'm still not happy that this is costing so much. And can you come and explain, please? And then I've got a couple of questions myself, but okay. The floor is yours.
Kia ora. As the Mayor said, this paper follows the recommendation from the Transport and Resilience and Infrastructure Committee from 13th of February, and it requests an update to the current year budgets to allow the Council to continue to purchase Category 3 properties and remove risk to life. Further updates for future years, including for land sale revenue, will come through the annual plan process in late May. So take the report as read, and myself and Tanya Stocks ready here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Walker is a seconder in the House.
Oh, Councillor Ferry.
Councillor Ferry, thank you very much. Okay, and questions? I've got a couple. What are we doing to pursue engineers and other professional services firms who contributed to the properties failing?
Thank you, through the Chair. So we did have a heads up that this question might come up, and we've had a discussion with our legal team. So the current buyout scheme does operate on a no-fault basis. So we accept no liability for any loss. Similarly, we don't seek to ascertain whether the homeowner or any other party has liability for their losses. The question of whether other parties could be held liable for some of the losses is therefore a separate question to the operation of this scheme. If the governing body wants to explore that possibility of recovering any of the buyout costs from parties involved in the design and build of the properties, we can ask the legal team to look at that, and would need to be assessed on a site-by-site, case-by-case basis.
Okay, well, I think that given the fact that you're now asking us for $190 million that we didn't have in mind, I think that it's time that we look at some further income from this, and so I would like you to explore that. I've personally seen, in visiting sites, even with the actual press present, where we saw failed retaining walls that had no chance of standing up, where we saw sewage, on-site sewage systems which actively encouraged the failure, all of which would have come with an engineer's report. So I think that you can't just come here along and say the poor old ratepayers have got to pony up another 100-odd million and not do our best to reduce that. So I would like to suggest, with the support of the room, that we do go and look into those things. My next question is, what was the additional cost of not having the cap on the value as recommended by staff?
Thank you for the question. Through the Chair, I can respond to that. So we have done some analysis to look at the numbers. So based on the 538 properties that have settled to date, and it's excluding GST and transaction costs in the purchase price. The total cost is $533 million to date. If we had set a cap of 1.5 million, then the total cost would have been $478.2 million, so that's a lower cost of around $55 million.
So that's $55 million, and it's only on the basis of how much you've done so far.
That's correct.
So it'll go over $100 million. So that decision, which was where people around the table, not including me, I've got to say, I voted against that, in favour of removing a cap, added $100 million to the cost to the ratepayers. And the net effect of that is that people who might have had a $5 million house would have had to put up with a terrible life in a $4 million house. What a shame. I think that was a tragic error in judgment, and will be, so those of you who voted against the staff recommendation for a cap should think seriously about that. The next question is from Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, when you talk about we have no risk, no liability, and we deliver no liability, that protects us from situations which could occur where our infrastructure caused damage to the people's properties, correct? So there's a lot of people out there who are complaining about council infrastructure, drains, road crossings, all sorts of stuff like that, and assert that they had something to play in their losses that we're buying them out. So what I'm saying here is Mr. Mayor is talking about suing engineers who design someone's driveway, but that would leave us open to us being sued for our roads causing the problem, yes?
I think what we're saying here, and I may need to get further advice, but is that this scheme, the scheme that has been structured, is a no-fault scheme. So the scheme, the council is, has been asked to engage in this scheme by central government and has done so on the basis that that there is no fault of the people, and we will. Through the voluntary buyout scheme.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? It's surprising. It was fairly unpalatable and not many questions. We had lots of questions about things that didn't matter before.
Kia ora, Mayor.
Come on, Councillor Hills, never to be missed.
My question is just, we're doing our bit. We're extending the funding across the Category 3 homes, but the government has declined to increase there. Are we going back, or is the Mayor going back to ask again? Because I'm getting a lot of requests from, and we see it from local MPs expecting us to do far more blue-green, but yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hills. I can respond through the chair. Just to confirm, we have written back to the Crown to request additional funding, and they have responded, highlighting their fiscal constraints and that there is no additional funding that can be provided. However, they are working with us to update the funding agreement to ensure that we can fund the remaining Category 3 purchases and agree what can still be delivered for the flood risk mitigation program.
Okay.
Yeah, I have correspondence with them very recently, which we're expecting a response to.
I mean, we appreciate their help, but I think the public needs to know that we will be limited on those blue greens because Crown has said it's maxed out. So, yeah.
No further questions, but so we'll go into comments. But I'm sorry, Councillor Turner. You want to? Oh, okay. Finished questions. When you just look at the recommendation, we've got $108 million worth of borrowing, which is solely as a result of us opposing the staff's recommendation for a cap. And so I've asked for the next report on this to clearly identify that figure, which yesterday the staff said was insignificant. Today's turned out to be very significant. And we need to learn to sometimes more accurately follow recommendations with a financial implication from them. We will be publishing who voted against the cap, just to remind us. Councillor Turner, you want to have a comment?
Yeah, please put my name in neon lights, Mr. Mayor, because I voted against the cap because it wasn't fair and equitable to people who had the richer houses. Most importantly, that extra money, which is disappointing, I agree, but there's a lot of reasons why that's there, way beyond just the cap debate. And I think, you know, as some of the other subjects I've tried to enter into today, it's a big, long thing that we can do offline. But please, you can put my name in neon lights when it comes to voting against the cap. Thank you.
Good, honesty is a great thing. Thank you very much for that. But it was supposed to be helping people in trouble, not necessarily putting people back in flash houses, but then again, that was my view, and I'm probably wrong. Is there a mover for this piece of unsavoury financial? My humble apologies. I was suffering such shock from reading the numbers. And I think the last bit of comment from Councillor Hills is that not only that, in order that those people lived in those nice houses, we're now not doing good green work. We're funding this by deferring healthy waters, blue-green stuff, which was really good. So I'm going to put this, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, me. Okay. Three noes, okay. The Howick Brigade joined the Centre City. I said no. All right, it's passed. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to item 13, which is the